Okay. So one of the ideas that we had was to invite a couple folks up that have participated, have some of this genetic material on their farms. And they don't want to sit next to each other, apparently. So I guess what I will try to interject some questions, but really this is a chance for all of us to kind of have a larger discussion around this, particularly around some of the trials that Tom Pierbold has coordinated. So I'll start with you, John. Okay. This past year you had 2166. What, you did not? No. Okay. What machine trials did you have on your place this past year? And provide a little bit of some quick notes on what you would have thought about those selections.
Okay. First of all, Pat, I have a question for you. Is there any chance we can get Mexico to go with that 1980? The primary thing that we planted, what would it be, 2 years ago, we planted about 30 acres of Cascade Harvest. We haven't had the 2166, so we may have had it in a trial. I'm not aware of how much we did. Our first year with the Cascade Harvest, the yields were below average, I would say. I think in part that is because we use plugs and it takes them longer to get going. Last year, we had a phenomenal crop on the Cascade Harvest. However, in the process, because they were so vigorous, we ended up with a lot of cane blight. And so we had to really, it was a very difficult time to prune out the cane blight. I don't know if this is something that you'll deal with in 2166 or not, but Ron Brand, you had the cane blight as well, and a significant amount in ours, that's for sure. We have planted about an acre, I think, Julie, of various plants for this year. Unfortunately, we didn't get them all marked, so if there's a really good one, it'll be named the John Clark variety.
You might want to pick up your mic. I think it's getting feedback. Give us some observations on some things you've had on your farm past couple of years. Some things are promising, some of those that are not.
Okay. Well, I did plant Cascade Harvest. I put in a couple acres of it at the same time that John and Ron planted. Really, the first year they were really commercially available. I've since removed my Cascade Harvest just because of sales issues and higher specifying meeker only. I was pretty bummed about that I couldn't really make it fit into my program for that reason, but it would have been nice to have looked at it for a longer period of time. Cascade Harvest is a slow starter, establishment year. You're not going to see the normal cane growth or cane size. But like John said, the following year, it looked like, I only harvested the baby crop. But after that, I had really nice regrowth on the primocanes. Probably would have done really well, but I yanked them out after the baby harvest. Cascade Harvest as a variety, I don't know that it's ever going to really catch on that well in our industry because of the color, flavor issue, and now with the potential or susceptibility to cane infection or primocane death, could make it more of a challenge to grow. It looks to me like Cascade Harvest is going to be will easily become a cycled variety that'll have high production, and then it'll have low production unless it is managed somewhat differently. But the fruit is very attractive. Large fruit, very nice looking fruit. Not the firmest, but it's large and it looks really nice. Picks very well with the machine. It's easy to clean. Flavor, in my estimation, is substandard, it's a very mellow flavored. It doesn't, I don't know. It's just not in the excellent category. Otherwise, I haven't planted anything other than Meeker. Commercially, I've had hundreds and hundreds come through the machine harvest trials over the last, we've been doing that since 2002. And we probably average 80 to 90 different materials each year that are planted. So it gets to be a lot. And admittedly, it's, for me, it's kind of a blur. Occasionally there'll be something that really stands out. I think of 21-22 for me. I thought that maybe would have had some potential. It was a very thick, heavy walled, firm berry with very good dark color, quite good flavor. On machine harvest trials, we have not been doing any yield collection other than just what you see on the belt in comparison with other ones, just anecdotal. I thought it had potential there as a Wakefield competitor. Possibly, it was very much in the same season as Wakefield. It was a slow, later starter, but it wanted to keep going for a long time in the season. I don't know. It's one that it would be fun to try it on some different sites that are have different soil conditions than what it is maybe seen in the grower trials, to see if it really could work. It had extremely long laterals, longer than Wakefield, so not going to be a real friendly one for handling. A little bit challenging for harvesting because of that, but I don't know. I think, Wendy, when we were harvesting it back then, it did look quite nice in flats. So, but you see things come through. I mean, like Cascade Harvest came through as 1507 or 1532 or something like that. It was not one that jumped out to me as a grower, but it looked decent and it wasn't horrible flavor like some of them, unfortunately, are really bad. So I don't know, Chris, what other ones to talk about on that?
No, that's good. Anyone else want to chime in on this discussion? Kind of opening up the floor. Questions for the breeding programs, comments, observations? Here, Bolt, anything you want to add that you've seen that hasn't come up yet?
Well, for those of you who don't know, I am coordinating the on-farm trials. So if there's anyone here who's interested in being involved, it's this one-sided sheet that you got, or have questions about the large on-farm trials, feel free to get a hold of me. A couple of things. This has been going now for about 5 years, and I feel like it's hitting its stride. We're getting a good order going on the on-farm trials. It's getting integrated, and we are, I think, accelerating the development of some of these things. A couple of issues. Number one is that I think we have to continue to evaluate these things after they're released, like Cascade Harvest, Cascade Premier. We really don't know how well these are going to produce until they get out there and get into some actual grower fields. So approach these and selections with that in mind. I think the WSU program's got some great things coming along. I think the next couple of years we should see some other releases coming through. And the major thing I'm always looking for is root rot tolerance. I think that is the number one thing that personally I'm looking to get into these and getting them on heavy sites. And Cascade Premier so far looks fantastic as far as that goes. Fruit quality, I think all of these could be acceptable if we have root rot tolerance. So, Ralph's here too. He might have something to say. I'd rather hear from growers and get some feedback on things, if at all possible. Can we get you to comment on anything, Ralph?
2166, I believe, is better than what anybody's saying. Yep. Cascade Premier. At my place, yeah. I like it. Holds together, it's firm. It's very much a fresh market, machine harvest, fresh market fruit.
Ralph has got a site down in Everson. He's been a fantastic cooperator from the beginning with this on-farm program. He's got a heavier soil, so he's got a lot of these photos you're seeing are coming from Ralph's. So I'd encourage any of you who are thinking about planting, especially if you've got a less than or a heavier soil, to visit with Ralph. He's got a lot of experience in seeing these in the ground. And he's got a lot of Cascade Bounty that he grows. Is kind of our standard. It's the number 10 on root rot tolerance, is Cascade Bounty. So on this site, we can compare all of them to what we'd like to see.
On the root rot thing, because the sandy soils are not as available as they used to be, and as we're planting more. Well, just about any field in the county, at some point you've got a wet spot, so it's something you're going to deal with. But when I look for something, and that's one of the reasons why Wakefield has been successful for us. And just for a plug for the Wake Haven, we've had just a small part of it. And last year we picked 4 acres of it. I like the size of the berry. I think they will be a better IQ up berry than the Wakefield. I think they're going to hold together better. So I think it's a positive stride.
Hello. If I could tag in on the end of Tom's comment there. So in addition to giving Michael's presentations and being a mic stand for Ralph here, I work to coordinate a similar set of grower trials in BC as what Tom does down here. And we get a lot of the same material to look at it. Tom and I went out to your field, John, to look at it about mid-season. That's when we saw that cane botrytis that seems to have pretty negatively affected what we're hoping would be a better yield in 2018. I went back to some 2014 plantings of Cascade Harvest up in BC after that and noticed that there was pretty poor primocane growth in a lot of those fields. And so I've asked a few people about this. I want to ask a broader audience, is there something to do with cane burning or some other management practice that people have seen in Cascade Harvest that may relate to primocane growth?
One of the things, this is planted on a field that never had raspberries in it before, and it was extremely vigorous. I mean, the primocane, I've never seen primocane like that. And possibly we went in and cane burned too early, and because we had such when you were out there, it was phenomenal growth, right? And so I don't think our fungicides were as effective as they should have been. And in the future in that field, we'll cut the number of canes down because you could have had easily 20 canes to the hill, without an issue. But so I think it kept us from getting the penetration we needed on our fungicides.
Okay, so you're saying you cane burned early, because I was concerned that you may have cane burned too late because it was beside a wheat field or something.
Gave them too much time to grow.
Any other feedback from any other growers that have put sorry, I keep saying that, Cascade Harvest in the field?
I did, and I had the same problem. Cane growth it was so thick in there that it was a jungle, and we burned them a couple times, and then we mowed it too, try to get it down. And during the harvest this year, you couldn't even penetrate into the bushes because of the growth. Then the new ones for this year, we had a lot of canes that we had to pull out just because we didn't make it.
I find that really interesting feedback, and we should talk to Tim Miller about that. He's not here right now because he's doing cane burning work, and I think his new plantings have got Cascade Harvest included in that experimental design. So maybe it's something he could look at to use horticultural management to get over whatever issue there is.
Yeah. Are you getting up to talk, Tom?
One more comment. I just say that with any of these new varieties or new selections, is that the learning curve isn't just getting the new material in the ground. It's learning this. How did I do that? It's learning how to grow. Each of these is going to be different. And so if you're trying to fit something into a meeker mold or whatever, we could see failures that way, where it's going to take us a few years of trial and error to figure out the right way to grow it possibly. So that's always an issue if you put something new in.
Am I on here? I would wholeheartedly agree with Tom. I think with nearly every release of a different variety, there's been somewhat, if not a lot, of a learning curve. I know that's true for Wakefield. And if you're going to put this stuff in and expect to give it a real fair shot, you're going to have to be on the top of your game to manage it and really be in touch with your field, because they're all somewhat different animals when you get them out in the field. So that can bite you in the butt if you're not with it on that. And to have for Cascade Harvest, when it's that thick, a normal spray program is not going to cut it. You're going to have to go for very high penetration and coverage. It appears that the tissue is very susceptible to infection and has a lot of leaf mass. You'll have to adjust to make it work. Whether that'll be worth it in the long run, I don't know, but I really want to give any new genetic material as fair a shot as we can give them and see if it has a place.
Okay. Thank you two for sitting up on the front. Let's give these two a round of applause for doing that.